Now that we've established where the Malay world is located geographically, let us find out more about who the Malays are. As you walk past the pictures and portraits on this wall, let's think about what we understand by the term Malay. Does Malay just connote a race or ethnicity? Is it a language and a culture? And does Malay always mean the same thing? Or are they changing definitions on characteristics of the very people who identify themselves as Malay? In Perintis Masyarakat, or the Community Pioneers Gallery, we present the diverse faces, dress, and histories of the various sub-ethnic groups which form part of the Rumpun Melayu, or Malay ethno-linguistic group, has captured in photographs, many of them framed by Occidental or Western photographers and perspectives, but also the family portraits, community gatherings, and journalistic snapshots of seminal events. Through these myriad archival images and community stories, we've been able to trace how an influx of new arrivals from the Nusantara to British-controlled Singapore in the 19th century intensified the existing transmigratory movement of peoples across the archipelago. These movements arose out of an interplay of various push and pull factors such as political unrest or exile from home states, as well as the economic opportunities on further shores. In Singapore, the Javanese, the Balinese, the Bugis, the Minangkabau and Banjars from present-day Indonesia, as well as Malays from the Johor Riau region and Malacca, make up the majority of the local Malay Muslim community. Over time, close interactions as well as marriages and shared cultural and religious values amongst the new migrants, along with various colonial administrative policies, resulted in them being collectively labelled as Malays, and which at times excluded and included the Arabs and Indian Muslims too. For instance, this portrait of two gentlemen in Western formal evening suits, topped off with a songkok or fez, is a reflection of the increasingly cosmopolitan and modern outlook of the urban middle-class Malays in Singapore. More importantly, however, is how successive generations of locally born or Peranakan hybridized descendants view themselves, the language or languages and cultural practices and norms they choose to adopt, adapt and preserve, and how they come to consider Singapore as a permanent home. The formation of a modern Malay community by the late 19th to the first half of the 20th century in colonial Singapore was also mirrored in the shift from ethnic-based pondoks or lodges and kampongs to new community-wide organizations such as cooperatives and Malay nationalist groups. As individuals, prominent Malays such as Mbok Sulo, Hajah Fatimah, Yunus Abdullah, Samad Ismail, Puan Cik Zahara and Ahmad Ibrahim also came forth to serve in different fields such as philanthropy, politics, journalism and social work. Many of these illustrious pioneers have links to Kampong Gelam, underscoring the significance of the precinct in Malay social and intellectual histories. During the post-war years, such organizations and individuals played active roles in fighting for the rights of the Malay community against the backdrop of racial-based British colonial rule, and more importantly, contributed to the development of Singapore as a nation-state. The three table showcases that you see across the hall of the Istana's erstwhile Balai Rong, a hall where Sultan Hussein once received his audience, serve as markers for the change of political systems from the feudalism of traditional Malay authority, represented by parts of the royal regalia of the Sultan of Riau, here in the form of the Nekara or kettle drum, and the Pending or belt buckle, and the formation of grassroots organizations such as Volunteer Corps, as illustrated by the Malay Regiment artefacts on display here. Queen Elizabeth II's signed appointment letter and the commemorative medallions presented by the Sultans of the Federation of Malaya to the late Yusof Ishak as the then di Pertuan Negara illustrate in material form Singapore's adoption of a constitutional monarchy with a Western parliamentary system in 1963, when Singapore was part of Malaysia for 2 years, before ultimately achieving independence in 1965.